Welcome to another Agribusiness program brought to you by First Dakota National Bank. I'm Nate Franzén, President of Ag Banking at First Dakota. I'll be your host. Joining me today is our legacy consultant, Alan Hojer, and we're going to talk about Keep Farmers Farming, our consulting initiative at First Dakota, helping folks with transition planning, estate planning, exit planning, and more. Alan, as you do your transition work and your estate planning work in particular, do you take the role of the attorney and these other things, or what is the process?
Yeah, first of all, great question, because I am not an attorney, so the goal is not to be the attorney. I am not an accountant either. I'm not a CPA, but the goal is to get people ready so when we need those professionals, we're very efficient with those conversations. So on the estate planning piece, there's a certain level of education is where we start. After we've had coffee, they say we start to take coffee, it's actually, I call it that first meeting, the things you need to know about estate planning, and it's about a 2-hour process, but people understand the difference between a will and a trust and power attorneys. It's really very educational. Because when you get together, when we get to the attorney, because we are going to get to the attorney to ultimately get the legal documents, they're going to have a good understanding, big picture, what these documents are, and they're going to have an understanding of what they want to have done, and therefore the attorney, upon their questioning, is going to be able to get to the end game very, very quickly, but only if it makes sense after they've vetted out with the client. My role when we walk in the attorney office, if the client wishes to have me along, which I'm about 100% now, is very supportive. I'm there for their strength. I'm not there to be in between the attorney and the client. I may say something for point of clarification. I think we ought to talk about this, whether it's body language or something that comes up. I want to make sure that we have had that conversation in front of the attorney or whatever. So it's very supportive. So my role changes when we enter that office, and that's critical. It does, because you have a client-attorney conversation has to happen. I'm not going to answer the questions for that client on behalf of the attorney. The attorney is going to ask them directly. They're going to hear the answers from the client. I just know what we've talked about, so they're prepared for that discussion. Very, very important. We don't produce documents to keep farmers farming. We'll work on balance sheets, but whether it's a general partnership agreement for a general partnership or an operating agreement for a LLC, we don't produce legal documents, and that's a critical piece. So therefore, we're not competing with attorneys at all. Matter of fact, people says, who's your number one competitor? I say anxiety. It's really not about the legal professionals or anything. It's really about working through the anxiety of the situation, help people get from point A to point B.
You know, you bring up the anxiety, and you talked about education, a big part of preparing them for that attorney meeting. But to the anxiety piece, I think we go back to that communication thing, right? I mean, you're not ready to make the decisions the attorney is going to be asking you to make if you haven't worked through a bunch of that process that you've helped them work through, right? And some people can get there on their own, but a whole lot of people need that third-party person like yourself to help them work through that process. And
I'm looking for their confidence. Confidence in decision making, that's a key word. If they're confident in what they're doing, then I've done my job. If they're nervous about what they're doing, then I question whether we're ready for the attorney. People can be nervous but confident at the same time. Because frankly, you know, and I'm a farmer too, remember, so this is not being in any way shameful to say it. We don't spend a lot of time in attorney offices. We just don't get in trouble, and so we're not comfortable, all right? We're just not comfortable, and as a result, anything we can do to settle things down so people can confidently make decisions is critical.
You know, I've talked to a lot of attorney friends of mine that are in the estate planning arena, and I think when we first started this program, they were looking at us with this eye of, is this competition? What is this? And it's been rewarding over time to hear them say, boy, we really see the value of what you guys are doing. And, you know, attorneys don't want to get in the middle of family struggles or family communication problems or, you know, some of these challenges that you find yourself in the middle of often. And so they're really appreciative that we've helped the family work through those issues already. Doesn't mean we're at perfect.
No, we're not perfect.
But it means we're at a point where we can move ahead confidently.
Right.
And we've talked through the issues, and now we're ready to put something in place. And the attorney's going to do that for us.
Yeah, interesting. I actually had one attorney introduce me to another attorney on a conference call, and the other attorney was trying to figure out who this guy was that was sitting with his family. And this attorney says, this was his introduction, this is a guy that does everything we're not good at and don't want to do, and they wouldn't like our bill if we tried to do it. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. And nowhere along did he say he's distributing law through legal documents or anything like that, because we don't.
Yep.
And so I'm in a position that I'll ask the client, do you have an attorney of which you would like to work with? If they say not right off, I would say, would you like me to make a referral?
Yep.
And then if they say yes, I'll give a couple recommendations of which they will choose. Then I will send an email to an attorney, that particular attorney of their choice, to see if they'd accept the referral. So that's that process. So I try to be very professional on the entire process. So
Yep.
It's got to be the client's decision.
Yeah, for sure. That said, though, to your point, not every attorney specializes in these matters either, right? And don't, some don't have a lot of expertise in this area. That's not a knock on them at all. It's just we all have our specialties.
Right.
That's part of what you're trying to sort through too, isn't it? To make sure they're getting to a place where they're going to get the right level of help.
There's a lot of different, and again, I'm not an attorney, didn't grow up in that world, but I didn't realize there's a lot of different types of law, and people like to specialize. So I do have a list I like to make referrals to, only because I understand the experience in this area of law which they'd like to specialize in. And I'm always looking to add to that list. So very important. Estate planning is a very, very special form of law, no question about it.
Yeah. While we're talking about attorneys, Alan, let's talk about entities, legal entities. Sometimes every family's different, right? Some are afraid of entities. Others think they need an entity for every situation, and everything in between. Talk about your experience helping families figure out that structure and that legal entity piece and how that works.
Yeah, so first of all, if we get into entity discussion, there has to be a purpose. Why are we just putting together an LLC or general partnership? What is the purpose? And usually the purpose is to deal with some of the complexities of the business or the people, is what's going on. Now, there's nothing wrong with entities. I'm actually very pro-entity. But I want to know what the purpose is and why we're doing it, because it's a legal entity. Everybody's in an entity today. It's called sole proprietor. That's what we all are. So literally you're just formalizing it to a different level. And there's differences between them. Some are more flexible than the others. But once you come back to the purpose and define the purpose of why we're doing it, then things again begin to fall into place. But we have to do it officially. We want to make sure we have exit plans involved in the general partnership agreements or the operating agreements of an LLC. There are pieces you need to put in place. They're very much transitional tools while we're working with our children. They can be a great tool to work with. And it's also some tax advantages as parents are trying to retire. They can't rent their land to themselves, but they can rent their land to their general partnership or LLC. So there's different transition strategies there as well. I like entities, but I want to define that purpose. Why are we doing it? Don't do it just because somebody told you to do it.
Entities for the sake of entities creates unneeded complexity. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
But if there's a purpose, to your point, if there's a good, valid purpose, then it's a good, potentially good business use.
Actually, done right, the operation will flow simpler with an entity versus trying to manage all these different things. And an informal partnership, there's probably more of them out there than anything, and it's recognized by IRS. There's nothing wrong with that. Right. But that'll deal with complexities to a level. Then you actually need to take it further than that. Or at least you have the option to take it further than that. But, and because there's nothing wrong with entities, either people make them good or people make them bad. It's the bottom line. And usually if people are fear an entity of some sort, they just don't understand it. So again, we got to get the education in place. We have to identify the correct purpose, and then decisions be made off of that. Very important.
Great. That's another First Dakota Agribusiness program.